Oh man, do I have a different style of video for you today? Did you know that in Northern Virginia, some HOAs can ban you actually owning a dog? Some will let you paint your front door without approval or even grow vegetables in your own garden. Yep, that's the reality of thousands of homeowners who do not read that nice HOA fine print. Today, I am reacting to some of the most unhinged HOA rules people have dealt with across the country and here in Nova. What we're going to do is read some of the comments on Reddit about people's wildest experiences with that, and later I'll explain some of those rules to you so you better understand HOAs here in Northern Virginia. And trust me, some of these are really crazy, so let's get into the video. All right, first up, we got someone who says their HOA will not let them park their company work truck in their driveway, so let's see what that's all about. Had to sell my truck, possibly the nicest vehicle I have ever owned, for peanuts to get it gone fast. I had been fighting about it for months. They called it commercial because it was white, not commercial. That is actually insane. A white truck, come on. I'm a computer programmer. No signs were ever on that truck. Stock pickup. No signs were ever on that truck. Stock pickup truck with no modifications. Got to a point where they were threatening to tow it out of my driveway. Where is this? Like Nazi Germany. And I was threatening to stab the tow truck driver in the effing neck with a fishing spear and have his ass hauled off, and the HOA people that ordered it for grand theft auto. I actually probably think that's probably would have been a good idea. They backed off and started with fines instead of towing because they couldn't legally tow it on my property, only from their property. Driveway was mine. Yes, I absolutely would have stabbed somebody if they pushed me that far, so there is that. Worst part, I moved about 3 months after the truck was sold. There is a reason that non-HOA properties here are advertised in real estate listings. There is a reason that non-HOA properties here are advertised in real estate listings like they have a solid gold toilets. All right, that is freaking crazy. Okay, I've never heard of something that far. I could only hope that this is actually a goof or not real, but you know, only thing I could think of is it had to be like a big like, you know, F-350 or something with like mud all over it, but I don't even think they could do something about that. I've never heard of that. I have seen before, like if you have an electrical truck or, you know, wording on the back of your truck, like my HOA, it won't even allow that. So I can't put Colgan team on the back of my truck, if you can believe it, but that is actually insane. Now, the guy actually threatened with violence. I don't know if I would go that far, but what I would have done is, here in Virginia, you have 3 days to read the rules, and that's something that you definitely wanted to read. It's like, hey, if you have a white truck, I guess you can't park there. That's crazy. Let's try another one. No vehicles with commercial signs on them. Like if you had a normal pickup on the door says Bob's Lawn Care or something on it, because having a job is low class or something. Not allowing vehicles of any kind to be parked in the driveway for more than 24 hours. Sneaky ways to allow HOAs to control whether you renovate your garage. And of course, a typical HOA classes. Yes, that is something that I see all of the time. People don't realize that, right? Like they maybe park their work truck, or they said that those trucks can only be there between 9 and 5 when work is getting done on your house. I see that all the time. So like, especially like some of these electrician jobs, plumbing jobs pay $250,000 a year. So people live in nice houses. So definitely keep that in mind. I mean, like I said, I couldn't park my truck here in Gainesville where I'm at if I had like Chris Colgan team with my nice cute face on it. So that is crazy. Okay, this is crazy. No parking in your driveway. All vehicles must be parked in the garage. So I have never seen something that is actually insane. So I mean, the thing is, right, like my sister, I remember she would always leave her garage door open, and she lived in at the time at Piedmont and Haymarket, and they literally would send her pictures of her garage door open and be like, you need to close your garage door. It's been open for more than an hour. I mean, I thought that was insane, but no parking in your driveway. Like literally they must like have yellow brick gold or something like Dorothy Wizard of Oz type driveways. So here's the reality, right? In Fairfax County, you're allowed to park 1 commercial vehicle per home, but it has to be owned or operated by someone who lives there. The problem is that your HOA can have stricter rules in the county, right? So think about it, right? Like most HOAs are going to restrict that. I guess you see the other side of it, right? Do you want a bunch of work vans and your nice $2-3 million properties? I don't know, right? Like who knows? But then again, I guess where do you draw the line? What if someone parks a dump truck there with all their stuff on it? Then I could obviously see that. But look, you know, that's one of the things that you really have to look out for. If you just have a normal vehicle like myself, don't even worry about it. But even like huge tow trucks, huge company trucks, you can't even park there. Like I remember there was a guy that I know, a client that had one of those junk removal trucks. They wouldn't even let him park it like far out in commercial areas of his neighborhood. He lived in a huge apartment complex, and then when he went to move somewhere else to put it, they couldn't park it there because the county said trash trucks could get rid of like waste or something. So it was a huge nightmare for him. He ended up selling the freaking company. So yes, definitely these rules are frustrating, but wait till you see what other HOA things I'm going to come into. Let's take a look. All right, so check this one out. Someone's HOA fined them for building a snowman. So like, so much for, do you want to build a snowman by a frozen? No seasonal decorations to include snowman. Yes, absolutely, positively, no snowman. We got threatened with $100 fine for my daughter building a snowman in the front yard, then had to lie to them why it was gone the next day. That is insane, guys. I have never seen, now, first of all, in Virginia, we don't really get enough snow all the time to build a bunch of snowmen, but that is insane. I mean, I don't know. That seems like a little over the top for me. I definitely would move for that one. Mine used to not allow any signs in the yard other than for sale signs. Then our state passed a law that HOAs have to allow signs for political candidates within 30 days of elections. My neighbor put a sign that said, "Save our libraries." My God. The HOA dinged her because it didn't have a candidate's name on it, so she went out and with a Sharpie and wrote, "Vote Jane Smith and John Jones for library board." I mean, to actually, say that you can't save our libraries, that's pretty sad. But you know what? I know of a story here where someone called me and said, "Hey, I moved into this neighborhood and they won't let me put up a political sign. Is that even legal?" And I think there was a case here in Virginia where you can have it up, but only for a certain amount of time or something like that. I mean, some of these people, I will say, do put up, like, let's say the election's in November, they put up the sign like in April. I have seen that before, but save our library, stuff like that. I don't know why the HOA would really care about that. Most of the time, when stuff like this happens where people get really mad, you either have a crazy neighbor with nothing better to do, or you have an HOA president who literally thinks he's like the president of the United States. All right, so here's someone. I got fined $35 for keeping my daughter's bike on the front steps during the day. Got $35 for sidewalk chalk in a neighborhood full of families. Got fined $35 for potted tomato plant on the back porch. And I had to fight the $35 charge that said I brought in a drink other than water to the community pool, even though there's someone there and no one has ever said a word to me. I was told by the office it's because I brought a water bottle and that wasn't clear and they couldn't confirm it only had water in it. They dropped the charge on my account, but because it took 3 weeks for me to get a hold of anyone, I wasn't able to use my pool for 3 weeks. They raise their HOA fees every single year. Okay, this is crazy, but my guess would be HOA there must own some type of like community restaurant, but that is insane. Like, who gives a crap? Like, so you're telling me if someone brought in Starbucks or something, they couldn't actually like bring it? That's insane, right? So my guess would be $35 for you leaving your daughter's bike out, $35 for sidewalk chalk. That's crazy. I have heard of that before. That's nuts. My guess would be this person must have a really bad yard, or they must have like the strictest HOA in the country. I got fined $50 because they didn't like my patio furniture and thought it looked too much like interior furniture, which it didn't. I brought in the patio furniture section of the store. We were also only allowed to have beige pillows on our patio furniture, the right beige too, apparently, or you will be fined. Okay, that is just ridiculous. I mean, think about it, right? Like, some of that stuff is absolutely really nice outdoor furniture. And yes, I can get it if you have the old couch from 1970 sitting out front, but that is crazy. Now, speaking of things that are not allowed in yards, some areas here in Northern Virginia, I have seen people get in fights about this, and it actually go into thousands of dollars. You can't have a flagpole without approval. That is very common. So definitely when you're buying a house, make sure you read about that. A lot of people get frustrated because they're like, hey, I want to put up the American flag. I want a flagpole. And the HOA says, nope, no, absolutely no flagpoles. I remember a guy in my neighborhood made a huge thing about it, and like the HOA followed them, and then eventually like they decided on it could only be like 8 feet or something. It was crazy. But the Freedom of Display of the American Flag Act protects your right to fly the flag, but HOAs can set reasonable restrictions. So I think that's where my neighbor got it. Virginia law protects the flag display, but associations can control height, location, and installment requirements, right? They could actually like say, hey, it can only be 5 feet, I guess. Most Northern Virginia HOAs limit flagpole height to 20 to 25 feet maximum. And you're typically going to need board approval. Yes, a lot of this stuff, if you put it up and don't get it approved, like a flagpole, they're gonna start fining you like crazy. So what do you guys think? Like, I read it back in 2020, a 77-year-old Marine veteran in Culpeper had to fight his HOA over a 20-foot flagpole. The neighborhood supported him, and the HOA eventually voted to allow flags without restrictions. And we do have some more military-related stuff coming soon. All right, so before we move on, let me ask you, are you enjoying this kind of video? Do you want to know more about Northern Virginia's real estate market and lifestyle? So click that subscribe button right now and make sure you watch my other videos. I take you on tours, give you deep dive ranks and all of that. I drop videos every week like this. We also drop driving tours pretty much everywhere in Northern Virginia, so definitely subscribe to my channel. Okay, camouflage ban. Now this one is wild. Someone says their HOA won't allow camouflage decorations or clothing visible from the streets. All right, hunting season. Absolutely not to this HOA. It says, an HOA I lived in had a rule where residents could not wear camouflage clothing outdoors. It was considered redneck to go out in public and such. I wonder if they really had, you might be a redneck if, or you can't like be a redneck to live in here. This guy racked up fines because he wore camo daily, not matter how many times he were appealed with a good reason. These fines would stand even though he refused to pay them. Now, I am not a hunter, whatever, and all my neighbors hunt and more power to them, but I cannot believe that you cannot wear camouflage clothes outside. I mean, that is insane. And I mean, how could they even see him if he's wearing camouflage clothes? Okay, that was a bad joke, I know that, right? But hunting season, no, it's HOA season, right? All jokes apart, I have not seen anything like that here in Northern Virginia. If I did see that, I would tell the person, don't even move into that HOA. That is insane. Like for the most part, HOAs have broad authority to regulate anything they consider that affects community looks, like window treatments visible from the street often must be white or neutral colors, no lawn decorations or outdoor furniture that's not approved. Holiday decorations have to have, a certain amount, so you can't be like shooting fireworks off with the lights and then the snowman, but I think that's just fun. Any restrictions have to be clearly stated in the governing documents. They just can't make that stuff up. Guys, when you get some of these HOA booklets, they're like that big. We'll get to the made up stuff later though, and if it's visible from the street and they think it's tacky, they can actually regulate it. But I've seen like these HOAs, I've never heard of people getting on Christmas decorations. Like I have a deal with a Christmas lights guy and he puts them out early and I light them up early. No one's ever complained about me, but then again, I don't have, a 20-foot Santa in my yard. Now this one right here, do your vegetables need approval? Someone got cited by their HOA for planting a vegetable garden in their front yard. Friends of mine are not allowed to grow anything edible in their garden. Ornamental plants only. Growing food is for poors, apparently. Yeah, and this happens in Northern Virginia too. A lot of HOAs have strict rules about your front yard gardens, even if they're well maintained and look great. I've seen that before. I mean, think about it. What would they do like if you were growing tomatoes? Come over and start taking them out and cutting them and getting rid of them. Many know that HOAs actually prohibit or severely restrict vegetable gardens in your front yard, if you can believe it. Some communities provide approval plant lists. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of these people have nothing better to do, you know what I mean? Like, I guess if someone has their whole yard as a vegetable garden, I get it, but like, who gives a crap? Virginia has been considering legislation to allow managed conservation landscaping with native plants in HOA communities. Landscaping maintenance requirements include regular mowing, trimming, and upkeep. Now, I have seen that. Now, I will say, I do like the thing where I'm a big lawn guy, like my lawn is perfectly green, but what I will tell you is I have seen where the lawn is like 4 foot tall and like it's bigger than my kid. I think that's a county thing too, right? Like all the counties in Northern Virginia are gonna make you cut it because I think it's a health thing, but definitely guys, like not having a vegetable garden in your front yard, that's pretty crazy. But again, I mean, I guess I'm thinking if somebody had like a 2-foot block, all that, I guess it all makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I have not seen that, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was in some of the HOAs here in Northern Virginia. Now this one right here, guys, I have seen this a lot, believe it or not. There's an old real estate story where I know of a realtor and I confirmed it. What happened was her buyer bought a condo and you could not have a dog in this condo. And I guess maybe because they're loud or the condos were too small, she actually had to buy the condo back from her client because she didn't really read the HOA rules or something. I forgot the whole story, but it was insane. So let's read some of these. Okay, I adopted my dog, a mixed breed, 3 years ago when he was underweight with behavioral issues. The apartment HOA has a rule that dogs cannot be over 25 pounds. When I moved in, I provided docs showing his weight and got approval. I only moved in because it's difficult to find a place that has amazing rent with an amazing location and pet friendly. This is kind of funny, actually. You could actually throw me out for gaining weight too. Over this past year, he gained some weight. I'll be honest, he is a chunker. He's very food motivated and will eat anything that hits the floor. So what happened with this guy, it's kind of funny actually. What happened to this guy, his dog ended up gaining weight and they had a 25-pound rule. And so like now they're saying that, you know, his dog got too fat. That's kind of funny. I don't know how they would do that, right? Like what do they do? Just come out and like weigh your dog? That's kind of hilarious. But that dog must be a pain in the ass, I've got to admit, if they're really going over 5 pounds. Not my HOA, but the neighborhood next to mine put in a breed restriction on dogs 20 years after already being established. The majority of it is still owned by the developer, who is a scumbag, and he was the one who put it in place, probably because he owns the majority of them as rental properties and he does not want liability. They prohibit Great Danes, German Shepherd, Huskies, St. Bernards, Rottweilers, Mastiffs, Doberman Pinschers, Alaskan Malamutes, and Chow. Sorry, I know I messed that all up. Only the president and the VP knew about it, and the rest of the board ended up quitting immediately because it was just those 2 board members and the developer who created these rules, and it made the local news. The only thing I have ever seen is you cannot have a pit bull. That's the only thing I've ever seen, but yes, that's crazy. I've never heard of them getting rid of dogs. Now, most of the dogs they put right there are huge dogs, but my guess is this is probably like they said, a bunch of rental units, and the landlord does not want the dogs tearing it up. So it sounds like that person needs to move, but guess what? That is really common here in Northern Virginia. Like I said, if you have a pit bull, Rottweiler, or Doberman, you'll need to check your HOA rules before you buy. They have rules against those type of dogs. Now, what was that movie, Beethoven, with the big, huge St. Bernard? Like those dogs are like, what, 300? I don't know if they're that big, 300 pounds, but most communities do ban aggressive breeds. Weight limits are very common in Northern Virginia, believe it or not. I guess the theory behind it is they don't want a 100-pound dog living upstairs in a condo building and then everyone can hear it downstairs. I see that all the time. Now, most HOAs can say you only can have 1 or 2 dogs. Fairfax County has additional rules based on lot size. You need 10,000 square feet minimum for 3 dogs. Now, I've heard of it for horses, like I think it's like 5 acres, you can have 2 horses, but I've never heard it for dogs. Service animals are exempt from HOA rules under the Fair Housing Act. Guys, like I said, that is really important. If you're walking around with a Great Dane, they might not be able to be in your HOA. And if you're a dog lover, that is something you need to research before you make an offer. All right, before I tell you some important rules people don't think about, let's check out some even more unhinged rules. This guy says, our neighborhood is extremely shady as, I'm not gonna finish it, YouTube to flag this video. There is a guy in the neighborhood that owns a legit pressure washing business, and we find it odd that he sends out flyers about his business to some houses, but not at all. I think I know where this is going. Then those houses that get the flyer oddly get hit with a notice to pressure wash their driveway and a sidewalk from the HOA. You know what? So this guy's basically saying the HOA president owns a pressure washing business. He sends his flyer for the business, and then a week later they get hit with a big fine for pressure washing needed. I don't know if that's like being a bad HOA or if that's more or less being like a good businessman, but I guess that's obviously being a bad HOA president. Let's read another one. So a couple we knew bought a house in a small neighborhood with an HOA that was older, well-established neighborhood. They wanted to build a freestanding garage with an apartment over top. The HOA kept delaying and giving an approval in the neighborhood. There were other freestanding garages. Some looked like old shacks and about to fall down. Their attorney said, just go ahead and build it and you'll be fine, which was probably bad advice. They built it all brick to match their home with an apartment above. It blended in with the house and didn't block anyone's views. The HOA told them to tear it down. Their attorney took it to court. That is when I learned HOAs are very petty and I never want to live in one. The president was an attorney who had lived there for many years. They were new to the neighborhood and they did in fact have to tear it down. Okay, that is crazy, but I will say they probably got bad advice from their attorney. I definitely would not build something because guess what? You know how people get out of spite, especially HOA people. They're gonna be all over you if you do something they don't want you to do. I know an HOA that foreclosed on someone because they had a pickup truck, not a commercial vehicle, a standard pickup parked in their driveway. The owner fought that HOA for years and incurred a fine and violations of the pickup truck. Eventually it did lead him to being foreclosed on. Like I know in Virginia, they can actually like put a lien on if you're way behind, but to foreclose on that would take a lot. That guy must have really racked up some huge bills. My guess is, like I said, guys, basketball hoops require approval most of the time in Northern Virginia. My sister also got a bunch of tickets for that in her HOA. RV boats and trailers cannot be parked in open view. Temporary parking from 24 to 48 hours might be allowed with permission. Like my HOA, like who cares if they're there for a couple days with an RV? But other than that, I understand that. Trash cans must be hidden from public view. Yes, that is very common in here. And then you cannot see a satellite dish from your house, which I guess not many people are getting satellite dishes much anymore, right? And then holly decorations have to have timing to them, so no Christmas lights till after Thanksgiving, and in January 1 they better be down. So that is common stuff here in Northern Virginia, guys. So let me tell you more rules that I see commonly here in Northern Virginia. The biggest one, guys, is going to be like painting your front door, which I've seen stories where someone literally painted their front door pink from like black, and then their HOA started finding them every day. So make sure you check on that. The next one is fence restrictions. I went through this myself. Now the reason they do this is usually the neighborhood will have a certain length. Look, like some of the neighborhoods in Ashburn or maybe like Haymarket, Woodbridge, and Potomac Shores area, they're gonna say you could only have 1 or 2 types of fence. My neighborhood, believe it or not here, they actually had a lawsuit over this. The builder originally allowed this white fence, and then when they turned it over to the HOA decided they were not gonna allow anybody else to have it. Well, guess what? One of my neighbors built it, didn't get approval. The whole thing went to court and the neighbor won because the judge said, hey, the builder originally allowed it. So guys, some of these HOAs will go to great length to stop that stuff. All right, so guys, another thing is if you're buying a house here in Northern Virginia, you're supposed to get a thing that says, hey, these are the current violations of the actual house you're buying. So definitely read that because you want to make sure the seller gets that fixed. You don't want to move into a house that's already getting fined every day. Okay, this one right here is also big in my neighborhood. Mailboxes can only be one color. In my neighborhood, it is one shade of green. And if you go outside that shade of green, you're going to hear sirens pretty much in my neighborhood. Like they're going to arrest you. They're going to fine you every day. All right, guys, so that is some of the craziest things I have seen here in Northern Virginia. Let me know, do you guys prefer to live like in a HOA or non-HOA? Like I get it, right? Like both sides. You do want an HOA to help keep property values, but if you live in one where they're actually crazy and they're up your, you know what, all the time, I can understand that as well. But I have seen it the other side where you go to a non-HOA neighborhood and there's dump trucks, boats, all kinds of crazy things. Let me know in the comments below, what do you guys think? I feel like people who do not live in a HOA will never ever live in a HOA. Let me know in the comments if that's you guys. And if you are thinking about buying a house and you want someone to navigate that with you, definitely hit me up. It's info@colganteam.com, info@colganteam.com. And you better watch the video that's probably gonna be right up here. Click and keep watching my channel. And guys, hit that subscribe button.